Well, happening now, a debate on Capitol Hill over where to draw the line on transparency. There's a draft executive order by the White House that proposes any government contractors, from those who supply paper towels to our fighter jets, will have to disclose their political contributions when they compete for a bid. Now, some say this is greater transparency at work. Others say it will politicize the process and bids will essentially be bought. One of the folks with that criticism is Congressman Darrell Issa of California. He's the chairman of the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform. So, Congressman, I'm looking at one headline here that says Social Security and Medicare are going to run out. Their funds are going to run out by 2024. We have the debt ceiling, we have spending, we have all these big issues. This is just a draft proposal. Why are you taking the time to focus so much attention on this?
Well, because this leaked draft executive order would have in fact been issued, and we'd have been stuck with it, subject only to the court's challenge, if we hadn't been fortunate enough to see that this administration was trying to do, if you will, the worst part of the Disclose Act by executive order. And understand, it's not about transparency, it's about privacy. It's not about what government's right to know is. In fact, their witness from OMB said they had absolutely no reason whatsoever to need this information in any way, shape, or form in contracting. They just thought transparency was good. And understand, this is not political contributions. What they're ordering in this is for your charity contributions, your 501c and 501c3 and c4 contributions to be exposed. Contributions that may or may not be used at some point for political activity, none of which goes directly to candidates, but certainly you could chill this if you're the Obama administration, and union contributions are private, while private contributions are public.
Interesting. Now, of course, there's critics of what you're doing, taking a look at this. One of them has to be Elijah Cummings. He also sits on the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform. Here's what he had to say to you this week.
Second argument made by the opponents is that contracting officers might review political contributions in order to reward allies or punish foes by awarding or withholding government contracts. Again, this could happen now under current law.
Congressman Issa, he says really there's no difference. Is there?
Well, he's both factually incorrect and disingenuous in this case. First of all, it's not about contracting officers. It's about political appointees who also participate in this and often look over the shoulder of these skilled professionals and make suggestions to relook or change things. So it is about the political structure in contracting. Also, when he says people could already look at it, we're not talking about what's already publicly available, because it's publicly available. What we're talking about is if you're an officer or a director or a key person in a company, even if you're only supplying strawberries for the troops to eat, they're going to want to know all your contributions to your trade associations and, in fact, to gay liberation movements or National Right to Life. Any organization. And you can imagine how much, if you see a pattern that if you give to the right, you don't get contracts, and you give to the left, you get contracts, pretty quickly people would understand it's pay to play, and that's what this was all about.
So if you say it's a privacy issue, for example, right now, how do we know that the contracts that are being rewarded at this time are not happening because of certain contributions if we don't have this type of oversight? You're arguing that this type of oversight is not going to necessarily give us the information to know who to accept or deny. We're not going to really get a lot from what's being disclosed. But how do we know right now as citizens that those people that are getting these offices or getting these contracts aren't being rewarded because they are big donors?
Well, first of all, it's very clear that this administration is rewarding deliberately people that they know were big donors. But what we're talking about is an enemies list, a Nixonian enemies list, because now what they're going to do is they're going to force people who give to entities that do not, in fact, give to the candidates for or against, but may, in fact, run ads or something about them. Remember, that's information that today is deliberately separate. Those lists do come out. There are contribution reporting. But here's the most important thing. If they want to have things added, the Federal Elections Commission was designed to do this. This is a bipartisan group. It is statutorily empowered. What we're talking about is empowering the power of Obama administration for their political appointees to know this information as part of their grand scheme to figure out who wins and who loses.
Would your thoughts be different if it was a Republican president?
my thoughts would be the same, because whatever happens that corrupts the process, that makes it really about making sure that when you're scored giving to the right party. I understand President Obama is constantly talking about the Koch brothers giving and about all this others. He's not talking about unions giving. But of all the really hypocritical things, the president left the unions out of this. So the unions' independent expenditures are not going to be seen. The fact is, the president ridiculed the House, the Senate, and the Supreme Court at the State of the Union when he said he objected to their decision. He is trying to undo part of it for political gain. We're all for transparency. I'm the founder and co-chair of this caucus. I would absolutely want to have transparency. But understand, if you give to Planned Parenthood, that's none of my business. And under this, if you're a contractor, they're going to know, and they're going to be able to score, and it's political appointees that would have access to this.
Well,
this is Chicago-style politics at its worst.
I'm sure they take some issue with it being called a Nixonian list, but this is a story we'll continue to watch.
Well, of course they take exception, because it is exactly like a Nixonian enemies list. That's what it's exactly like. They take exception because it's too darn similar to what we saw a generation ago.
Congressman Issa, we appreciate you taking the time to join us today. It's a story we'll continue to follow. Obviously, a lot of